Good morning and happy Tuesday, 10 at 10. I am your host, Richard Charpentier, and every Tuesday we meet to answer questions that are being sent from bakers and answered by a baker. I am a certified master baker with over 34 years of experience working in the industry from large bakeries to small bakeries, and I have a degree in bakery science from Kansas State. So I really bring the approach of art and science. So without further ado, let's get started. First question, somebody is asking regarding their cakes, saying my cakes are crumbling, breaking into pieces. What could cause that and how do I correct it? So if your cakes are being crumbly, it's all about formulation. It's all about having the right optimized formulation so your cakes will not be crumble enough. So it's balancing the right moisture to sugar to protein to carbohydrate, and baking it correctly. There's a lot of factors going into it. And that's why, again, with 34 years of experience in baking and many years of experience in product development for large companies, it's about testing and knowing. Again, think about the ingredients and where, based on where you're located. I'll go back to, you have variabilities within the wheat you're using. You have variability within the sugar you're using, variability within flour. The eggs are not, a chicken doesn't lay an egg to make a cake. You have variabilities within the eggs you're using, etc. So understanding all of those factors of applying functionality of ingredients, plus balancing formulations properly so you can get a good cake. And that's why your cakes are crumbly. It's all about going back to the basis of having a good formulation, a good process, and baking as well. So I hope it helps, and good luck with that. But good question. Next question. I bake gluten-free vegan sourdough, and I'm researching to find a natural gluten-free option to extend shelf life. Do you think a concentrate kombucha can be used instead of culture wheat? Or is there another type of cultured grain that is gluten-free? Thank you so much in advance. Very good question. What you're referring to for extending the shelf life, how do you extend the shelf life of a product? In a gluten-free, it's mostly carbohydrates, so you're going with starch retrogradation and stilling of the starch over time, so you can prevent it one way or another. But in terms of mold growth, remember gluten-free has more moisture on average than a regular gluten dough. And therefore, the more moisture, the higher the water activity, and therefore the more prone you are to mold growth within your products. So what you're referring to as cultured wheat is what is propionic and lactic acid that are generated through the fermentation. And what you're thinking of having acids and pKa. So now we're dealing with chemistry and how to apply acids and how well they work within your system based on your shelf life. That's technically that. Can you use other different, natural acids? Yeah, you've seen, citric acid, lactic acid. So basically, the acids have different properties, and again, pK, at which pH would they perform best against mold growth. And that's sort of the approach. Very difficult to explain within the 10 minutes we have every Tuesday to go into it just on your detail. So I recommend you get look for another resource or someone that can basically be guiding you in terms of what to do for your gluten-free products. But it's an excellent question as it relates to a lot of similar questions we deal with every week is shelf life extension. How do you extend the shelf life? But again, based on what you're saying, kombucha might be great, but kombucha might also add other flavors. And what are the acids within kombucha, which is technically a fermented product and therefore generating acids similar? You could use a beer for the same principle because beer is probably acidic to a certain degree. It's understanding how you get the acid of vinegar. Vinegar is an acid and also an alcohol. So anything can work, but it has to be something that works for your products. So that's what I'm trying to convey. But good question. So I'm moving on to the next question. And the last question, I would like to decrease fermentation time to increase production capacity, but at this time I want to keep my raising rate. Please give me some advice. So basically, you're facing what in the industry, which we're calling throughput. So how many pounds per hour do you produce? And that is basically measuring your efficiency. But one thing on efficiency for bakeries, you can run, let's say we'll give an example, 500 pounds of dough per hour. But what I always coming from manufacturing, I always refer to as good sellable unit. So if you get 500 pounds per hour, let's say per every loaf you're making is 1 pound. So you're making 500 loaves per hour. But of the 500 you're making, only 350 or 400 are good to sell because you're packaging them and you're throwing 100 away. So instead of running fast, it's about running well. And quality products versus quantity of product. There's a difference. And for those who understand what I'm saying, just say so, but it's true. Is there's a difference between the quantity and the quality of products you're making. So if you're trying to accelerate your or increase your throughput, increase and decrease your fermentation time, you have to choose of what works for you. You hear some bakeries fermenting for 12, 18 hours. And because the more you ferment, that means the more space in your bakery you would need. So you have to find the right balance of the amount of products you sell, how much you're selling it for, because if people are paying a premium for your product, are they going to be okay? And how much of fermentation reduction is okay? A lot of the things, there's a lot of techniques that can be applied to increase fermentation or to decrease fermentation without changing the overall quality. And usually it involves changing the process slightly and how you approach it. And if it's something you would love to discuss further, you can go on Bakerpedia and look at the bakery resources. And under that, you will find access to great consultants, including myself, that can guide you and help you through your process. But changing fermentation time is really understanding of where are you today, because fermentation is a process that can be measured analytically, that can be quantitatively measured, and then go back around it and say how much time are you trying to to cut and how much throughput can you get. The end goal for every bakery is to increase the good sellable units, meaning what you can sell, not just thinking of, I need to increase how many pounds per hour I make, because there's a difference. So it's about efficiency and quality. And those things can be applied to any bakeries, and be glad to take you through that. All right. So, but again, thank you very much for following Tuesday 10 at 10. Again, I am your host, Richard Charpentier, and you have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.